Welcome back, everyone, to Fireside Football. I'm Kendall Capps.
And I'm Andrew Williams.
Well, here we are. We're almost at the quarter pole of the NFL season, finally. Starting to figure out which teams are pretenders and which ones are actually kind of legit.
Quarter way of the season, I think it's a good way to see who's coming up from last year, who's kind of moved down, and kind of readjust our expectations.
Yeah, now is about the time you can start to gauge which teams really might be able to make a run and which teams, you know, their great start might not have been so great.
Well, but you also have some teams who have made decent starts with a chance to build on them now. Teams like Pittsburgh without Ben Roethlisberger. Or
Kansas City surprisingly coming out 3-0. And with a favorable schedule, you never know, they might be able to make some kind of run this season.
And I'm going to bet $10 to everyone here that Kansas City stays undefeated this week in their quest to defeat the bye week.
Yes, something tells me you might be spot on with that one. Well, the first game that we're going to break down is probably the most intriguing matchup. At least it certainly should be a slobber knocker. It should be one of those physical games. Both defenses are bringing the lumber. What do you think is going to happen?
Baltimore-Pittsburgh, I think, is always one of the hardest hitting games in the NFL. Every year they play twice. They beat the hell out of each other twice. I think both of these defenses are going to come ready to play. I'm going to go with Baltimore. I think their offense steps it up a little. Anquan Bolden's been playing better. He had 3 touchdowns last week. And while Charlie Batch has looked good for Pittsburgh, I don't know that I can see him having a career day against this Baltimore defense.
Yeah, I actually have to agree. Even though Pittsburgh's at home and they've been playing really well, that defense looks amazing the way it had in years past with Polamalu healthy. I do like that passing game now that they have Bolden and Flacco's getting used to him. They have some chemistry going. Expect him to be able to try to get the ball down the field. And even if Ray Rice, who's still questionable, odds are I believe the latest reports that he's going to play. He's got that toe injury, but he should be able to be enough of a factor that they have to keep enough guys in, and Flacco can go over the top. I think Pittsburgh is just going to have problems scoring enough points, really.
I would agree. Now, what about Donovan McNabb's return to Philadelphia, the city that shipped him off to an interdivision rival?
Which you almost never see in the NFL.
And then you also have the story of Michael Vick's return to being Michael Vick with one of the fantasy points leader and leading the Eagles to a 2-0 record as the starting quarterback.
And don't forget, like he said, had he started week 1, it's very possible that the Eagles might be 3-0 with how he brought that team back.
They definitely outplayed the Packers in the one half that he played.
Yeah, they certainly did. It should be a great game. I actually think Vick is playing at a higher level now than he's ever played at. He's making reads that he didn't used to make. He's making plays where when there's initial pressure, he's actually not just breaking the pocket and running. He's still going through his progressions, finding his second, his third, his fourth receiver. That's something that the old Michael Vick with the Atlanta Falcons didn't do. And I'll be honest, I'm caught off guard by it. I didn't expect it. I didn't see him making this step forward, especially coming out of prison after 2 years. It's quite surprising, but he's done one heck of a job. And in this game, I think it's going to be really difficult for Washington's defense to be able to contain that Philadelphia offense.
I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, a shootout game. Washington's been scoring a lot of points. They've also been giving up a lot. But I'm going to go with Washington here. I'm going to take McNabb in his return. I think he's got something to prove. And while I think Vick plays well, I'm going to say fortune smiles on McNabb and the Redskins come out the winner.
My heart goes out to them. I hope that Washington does win, but I have a feeling that Philly might pull this one out. All right, well, how about Chicago at New York? The Giants coming off a loss where they had double the yards, double the time of possession, dominated stat-wise against Tennessee at home, yet they scored 11 points and lost the game. It was pretty ugly.
And then you look at Chicago, who has capitalized on teams that make mental mistakes. Green Bay with 17 penalties last week, basically giving Chicago the game. I like Chicago to go into the Meadowlands and win this. The new Meadowlands, maybe, but I think Chicago is 3-0, maybe a little bit better record than that team actually is, but I do think they're enough to handle business with the Giants this week.
Well, once again, I think we have to disagree a little bit on this. I actually like the Giants. I think their season almost depends on this game. I think they have to make a statement at home. They really need to get something going forward. I expect them to run the ball, maybe not well per average, but I think they're going to stick with the run. And that way, at least they're getting 25, 30, 35 carries and creating a little bit more time for Eli to throw the ball. And at home, I just think that they need this game a little bit more than Chicago does.
I would agree with that, and I think Tom Coughlin is coaching for his life out there in New York. I don't think he'll be around long if the losing and the mental mistakes continue
for the Giants, which have happened. I mean, if you think about it, if they didn't win that Super Bowl, he was on the chopping block that year.
That's very true. That's very true. Now, another team that makes some mental mistakes, the Oakland Raiders. Really could have won last week. They played well enough to win. Got one of the best kickers in the game within 35 yards to kick the game winner, and he missed. And they get the Texans coming off their big loss to Dallas in Oakland this week. What do you see?
It's possible that Janikowski might have had a hangover from the night before. Maybe he was even drunk on the field. I don't know.
Oh, that's a little rough.
I mean, hey, come on. It's Sebastian Janikowski here. I personally wasn't that surprised. He has a great long leg, but when the game was on the line, he's never been known to make those kicks. But in this situation, this is a great game. Oakland's pass defense is pretty strong. Andre Johnson is not fully healthy. Owen Daniels doesn't look the same. They've been using him more in pass protection than they have getting the ball to him down the field. Their offense doesn't look as explosive. Dallas did a great job of bottling them up last week, except for when it was pretty much over in the fourth quarter. But I still think Houston, they find a way to win this game, and Oakland is Oakland, and they fall to 1-3.
See, I'm going to take Oakland, and I think mainly because of that pass defense. The Oakland secondary is playing very well. That's Houston's strength. Andre Johnson's questionable. I think he's going to play, but coming off of that injury, I think Oakland can keep it close, and I love the way Darren McFadden's playing. He's running hard. He's starting to look like he was when he got drafted out of Arkansas. He looks like a feature back at one of the top backs in the
He really does. I mean, when he came out, he was supposed to be the number one. He struggled for a little while. Then they said, oh, well, maybe Michael Bush is really the guy, and people kind of forgot about him. But sometimes it takes a guy a couple of years to adjust to being able to play with linemen that run 4.9 40s. And it seems like he's finally adjusted, and he's making quite a difference over there in Oakland.
Then for that reason, I'm going to take the Raiders this week.
I could see it happening. We'll stay with the West, but out in the NFC West, San Francisco, I mean, what a disappointment. Maybe the biggest disappointment in the NFL so far this season. They're 0-3. They lose this week. Their season is almost officially done, except for the fact that they're in the NFC West.
Well, I think San Francisco last week kind of had the hangover of that Monday night game against New Orleans where they could have won, they should have won, they almost won, but they didn't, and then they came out and laid an egg in Kansas City, I think, overlooking that team. I don't look for San Francisco to overlook Atlanta. It's a divisional opponent, and if anything, I think Atlanta may be coming off of the hangover after beating New Orleans. So I'm going to take San Francisco in my upset special of the week here. Picked them a couple times. I'm going to have to say they lose this one. Hopefully we won't have to pick any more San Francisco.
Yeah, odds are if they lose this week, they won't be on our schedule for too long. True. You know, I like everything you said, and normally my gut would say this is the week that San Fran does come back, they bounce back, they win a game. But I really like this Atlanta team. I think they're taking strides moving forward. They're running the ball well. Matt Ryan, I mean, Roddy White looks amazing every single week. Even when they scored 6 points in week 1, he had 13 catches for over 100 yards against that vaunted Pittsburgh defense. I think they're just going to be able to move the ball almost at will for most of this game, and I think they put up enough to be able to put San Fran to bed for the season.
All right. Well, what about our Monday night game? New England versus Miami. It's in Miami. The Dolphins lost the big Sunday nighter last week. The Patriots coming off a win for the Bills, but I think this game is definitely key to the AFC East division.
It really is. I mean, we have a 3-team race, as we thought it would be at the beginning of the year. You picked Miami to win the division, I picked New England, so this game definitely goes a long way toward our predictions. It's a pivotal game, divisional game, everything rides on this, and when you look at that, New England secondary, they're making guys like Fitzpatrick and Sanchez look like all pros. And Chad Henne has shown the ball throughout his whole career that he can get the ball downfield, whether it was at Michigan or the last half a season last year and last week this season.
Over 300 yards passing last week.
And a few touchdowns. You know, it should be a great ball game, but I actually think Miami might pull this one out at home.
I'm a little bit more worried. I usually pick Miami. I like this Miami team, but their cornerbacks last week gave me a little cause for hesitation. I think it's going to be close. I'm going to go with New England. I'm definitely probably going to be sitting on the couch rooting for a Miami victory, but I think I'm going to take New England and see if Tom Brady can't chew up a little of that Dolphins secondary.
Yeah, odds are that's probably going to happen. It's kind of funny. I'm the Pats fan who took the Dolphins, or the Dolphins fan who took the Pats.
I can't pick them every week, but I won't be sad if the Dolphins pull one out here. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I won't be sad if I'm wrong with this one either. All right, well, that's going to do it for Week 4 of Fireside Football. And for all things football, you can log on to AmericanSportsDaily.blogspot.com, and we hope to see you again here next week.